The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Why was it so important to pass off Barack Hussein Obama's baby to anyone?
That's one of the mysteries. It's not entirely clear what the motive was, but we know that Hussein Obama Sr. was quite an important German asset. In fact, they eventually got the Kenyans to assassinate him because he started talking. We know that he carried a lot of intelligence in his head about the German links to the Mau Mau.
So that car wreck where he died supposedly...
Oh, yeah, he was assassinated, yeah. The car wreck was an organized car wreck, and that was set up by the Kenyans out of Nairobi. Now, it's very unclear exactly, the exact motivation is unclear. All we do know is that Barack Hussein Obama cannot be the son of Anne Dunham because she wasn't pregnant in July 1961 and the birth was in August. And as I explained in the video, which someone apparently in CIA went viral after someone in CIA apparently leaked it to a website. I wasn't involved in that particular leak at all. I didn't know it had gone viral until somebody said, oh, by the way, there are 2 million hits a day on your video. And I had to say, well, what video? It was a video, the presentation that I'd given to the Marlborough Research Group in 2008 in England. And it had only been seen by a few hundred people on YouTube, and then all of a sudden was being seen by 2 million people a day.
Very quickly, how do we know that Stanley Ann Dunham was not pregnant in July?
Because the CIA have obtained a photograph of her. When I raised this with the CIA and the DIA, I did suggest that somebody go looking for class photographs. They said, well, why would anyone retain a photograph? I said, students at American universities in 1960-61 would be taking photographs of each other. There's bound to be a yearbook photograph or a photograph taken by a friend. There will be a photographic record of Anne Dunham dating from 1961. It'll only be a couple of snapshots. And it turned out that was right, and there's apparently a snapshot of her at a beach, which I believe is Waikiki Beach in Oahu, in 1961, dated reliably to about July of 1961.
Well, I would assume she would be showing a month before the birth.
Yes, and she wasn't. At that stage, according to the White House, Anne Dunham should have been 8 months pregnant, but I believe that we have a photograph of her in a fairly fetching bikini on Waikiki Beach in July, and there ain't no pregnancy visible at all. So, he can't, I heard of premature births, but we don't, you don't have a brain at 4 weeks. Now, since he's a Democrat, I suppose we could pass over the lack of a brain, but you also don't have arms and legs, and since he has arms and legs, we know the president went fairly, we certainly know he went to the third trimester. As far as I know, it was a delivery at full term. He was not a premature baby. Anne Dunham wasn't pregnant. Now, the other reason we know Anne Dunham wasn't pregnant, in the United States, which the CIA actually told me this, I pretty much understood it anyway, but the CIA did say, well, yes, in the United States, women would normally have an attending physician at birth. It's not like England, where we use midwives. In 1960 in England, there would not normally be a doctor present at birth. In the United States, certainly for middle-class women, there would be an attending physician, usually. Yeah. Perhaps not in the Midwest, miles from the nearest doctor, but certainly in Honolulu, we'd expect there to be a doctor. And we'd also expect there to be medical records. It would be unusual for an American middle-class teenager to go through an illegitimate birth, even an illegitimate birth, without, at some point, mentioning it to her doctor and without there being some form of medical record.
Well, do we know that there is not some form, because there is a name of the doctor on the long-form birth certificate posted at
the name of the doctor, who has intelligence connections of his own. The doctor was a family friend. There's the name of a doctor, which eventually emerged after years of pressing for it, but what there isn't is the supporting medical records. And I know that CIA went and looked at those records, and my understanding is, of course I don't have the records, but my understanding is that there is no reference at all to a pregnancy on Anne Dunham's medical records. Another missing gap. President Obama has put forward 2 different hospitals at various times. it's not as though he's being consistent. Indeed, at one point he himself acknowledged that he was born in Kenya. I think that was included, was it not, in the biography of a book? I think
actually, it was a literary agent who represented him to publishers in hopes of landing a book deal, and they according to him, he was misrepresented that way for 16 years.
Well, I'm not buying. Firstly, if I've just written a book myself, the first thing the publisher do, the last thing the publisher does while publishing is send you the galley proofs, and the galley proofs include the cover. So the idea that he never saw the galley proofs of the book before it was published is a little bit, that's a bit of a stretch, frankly. And he certainly would have read the book. The publisher would automatically send him a copy of the book. And if there's a gross error, if you're an American citizen and you've written a book and you're claiming to be an American citizen and your publisher has you down born as an alien in Kenya, you would get hold of the publisher and say, right, check that for the next imprint. I mean,
well, again, I don't know that this was ever put as part of a book. What I'm stating is that the literary agent who represented him in D.C. Had a book in which they contained the biographies of many, many authors. And Barack Hussein Obama Jr. was one of those authors, and it clearly states that he was Kenyan-born. Yeah. Now, they now claim, in fact, within 24 hours of Breitbart.com releasing that information, the woman who was the one of the partners said that at that time she was just a simple clerk and that was her error, and that she did not get that information from Barack Hussein Obama Jr., but she also doesn't state where she received it. Well, and we're supposed to believe when other authors represented by that same literary agency said they had to sign off on a proof before their information was put in that book, that she just made up some stuff on Obama and never bothered to show it to him. It's a complete load of crap, if you'll pardon my language. The woman is lying.
Yeah, that I'm not buying. I'm sorry. That makes no sense at all. And why would she say he was born in Kenya if she hadn't got that from Obama himself?
Exactly.
Or someone close to him. He was born in Kenya. So she puts down an accurate representation as to his date of birth. I'm sorry, I'm not buying. I was about to make the point that the two different claims as to the hospital in which he was born, there are no hospital admission records. If for a birth in hospital, American hospitals are well run, particularly in Hawaii. Hawaii is a pretty well run state. There's no way. I mean, it's not. We're not talking Massachusetts. It's a well run state. There are no liberals involved in running it. On the whole, you would expect there to be a admissions record. I mean, the idea that 18-year-old girls wander into an American hospital and give birth to a baby, and there's no physician records, and there's no attendance records, and there's no hospital admission records, are just a nonsense.
Well, let me jump in again.
Apart from anything else, American hospitals bill. Somebody has to, either an insurance company or the parents or the girl has to pay up. You can't just wander into America. I don't believe that you can.
Well, no one is suggesting that she did, Michael. What Kapiolani is officially saying, and I know this because I'm pretty close to the cold case posse investigation on this.
Well, is approached me as well. Yes.
Yeah, is that when Mike Zullo and a member of the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office went to Kapiolani, they were told that the records only went back 25 years, so that they would not be able to help Mr. Zullo in his efforts to find.
I'm sure that's what they. I have no doubt if Mike Zullo says that's what he was told. Mike Zullo is a good people, very nice guy. We've not met, but we've spoken on the phone. I'm sure that's what Mike was told. But again, I have some. I have doubts about that. The attending physician's records have probably not been scrubbed. It just beggars belief that there could be no written record surviving of attendance at a hospital.
I would agree with you, and there have been sources within Kapiolani that dispute that, but yes. That's about all I can say on that.
Well, the hospitals know it's a political hot potato. The hospitals are. I'm aware both hospitals have pushed the line. There was no. Our records don't go back that far. I'm sorry, I'm not buying. Apart from anything else, in the 1960s, records could be microfiched.
Now, You've got some very interesting information, but I have to ask, is this information that was passed on to you simply by word of mouth through other intelligence people, or have you seen anything tangible that would suggest to you that what you've been told by other members of the intelligence community is correct?
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.